Hello and welcome to this episode of the Coach's Corner. Today we are focusing on Hampden-Sydney College, and this is a men's college located between Charlottesville, Lynchburg, and Richmond, Virginia. It's one of only three all-male colleges left in the United States. It was founded in 1775, making it the 10th oldest college in the U.S. It's actually also the oldest privately chartered college in the American South. The college has about 1,000 undergraduate students and more than 50 majors and minors spanning fields such as economics, history, biology, and the physical sciences. In athletics, they compete as the Hampton-Sydney Tigers, and the men's rugby program began way back in 1968, so there is a long history of rugby at this college. The team is currently coached by Seth Trujillo, and they train and host matches at the college's home field, which is known as the Ellis Rugby Pitch. And now I'd like to welcome the coach to our show today. And welcome, Coach Trujillo, and tell us about yourself.
Hi there, Melanie. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name is Seth Trujillo. I am the head coach here. I'm finishing up my fourth year here at Hampton-Sydney. Originally, I'm from San Diego, where I both attended Arizona State and subsequently San Diego State, where I graduated with a degree in criminal justice and a minor in psychology. As I was working for the California Highway Patrol, I had this wonderful opportunity here at Hampton-Sydney, and I've always had a strong view and opinion about rugby within the United States. And I thought that if I really have these convictions, I should put my money where my mouth is. And so I jumped across the country, and now I'm here, working with young men, trying to be, a positive example for them, and a big brother is my ultimate goal.
You're a long way from San Diego and a long way from the California shores. What's the biggest difference for you in the area where you're based now?
Well, it's a bit more rural, but I spent the first 10 years of my life in Virginia, actually. And so I always said that I missed how naturally green it was and also the sizes of the parking spots.
Okay. Um, Now, I mentioned that Hampton-Sydney is an all-male school. Now, that's quite unusual. Can you tell us a little bit about the culture there and why it's important to the school to maintain that all-men's environment?
Yeah, so into the 70s, the United States really was pushing towards forced integration to make things in universities co-ed. And a lot of universities did decide to do that. But we're one of the few male programs that decided not to. And one of the main reasons is because we, as a college and through our alumni network, stand firm in our convictions about wanting to create good men and good citizens. That's one of the core things that Hampton City is. And so we want to create a gentleman who knows how to wear a suit and tie, who knows how to shake hands, who knows how to make eye contact, and, build this strong form. And additionally, we do have a lot of predominantly female colleges around us. So it doesn't feel like, you're stuck in a barracks or anything else like that. I like to say it's Monday through Thursday, just like a job. You're focusing on work. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you're having a great time with your buddies. A lot of people come and populate around the college. And really on the weekends, you can't even tell that it is, an all-male college. It very much feels co-ed.
Great, thank you. Can you tell me about your rugby program?
Yeah, so Hampton Sydney Rugby, we are Division 3, as we are a relatively smaller school, about 1,100 guys. But we really focus on being currently a varsity club program. I want us to elevate ourselves in time to being a varsity program, but that is going to take time, of course, and everything else. From all that, though, we work hard 5 days a week, 6 days a week if you count the stretching and yoga activities that we do on Sunday. But really focused on making yourself the best ability possible. We have about 30, 35 guys who do currently play for us, and I want to get to that solid 40 where we can get two teams and allow for guys to play at the specific levels that they want to. One side chasing national championships, one side enjoying the social aspect of what rugby is, because I quintessentially believe that rugby is just the act of playing and enjoying this magnificent sport that is continuing to grow that we have all fallen in love with.
So you said that you're currently a varsity club sport and you're aiming to become a varsity sport. Can you tell me what the distinction is between those two things?
The main distinction is I personally view varsity club as you are still having a ton of fun and everything else like that, but you are shouldering more of a load than what a club program is. And a varsity takes that one step further, where it feels more like a job. And hopefully, when we do become a varsity program, it is a job, but it's something that you love and enjoy and fall in love with as well. I've seen from a lot of the top programs, people feel burdened or burnout or anything else in those true varsity programs. And I want you to come to the weight room. I want you to do sprints. I want you to want to fight tooth and nail on the goal line for me, but to thoroughly enjoy while you're doing it. Rugby is a sport that you should enjoy and love and everything else. And as a coach, we should be, trying to make that happen as much as possible, like a manager is with their employees. And so that's something I really am pushing for to make that happen. We still obviously take private buses everywhere. If we fly, we take flights. That's all taken care of by the school. That's nothing that they have to worry about. Hotels are taken care of, food's taken care of. Um, it is cheaper. I mean, I think you pay about $75 to register for the league, and then I take care of everything else. So it is still very easygoing and not a financial burden to play rugby here at this college, while still maintaining this professionalism that is Hampden-Sydney Rugby.
Sure. You were talking about travel. Who do you compete against? How far do you travel? And where do you stand in I guess, the rankings?
Certainly, yeah. We are currently about 25th in the country at the Division III level once again. We have just recently joined the Southern Conference, and so that is everywhere from Virginia down to South Carolina. So for playing teams in from South Carolina, we'll typically meet in the North Carolina area, just so that it's easier. Both parties don't have to travel 8 or 9 hours to make it happen. You can travel four and still be back in time for dinner. Teams that we play against, I personally love to play against better teams. So we have played against, during my tenure here, Mary Washington, Mount St. Mary's, Virginia Tech, UVA, just in Virginia alone. But additionally, we have Duke slated in our conference. We have played Georgetown. We have, the Citadel, things of that nature as well. And really, what I care about for the guys, because we play both in the fall and spring, I want them to play as much rugby as they want to play, plus one extra game, so that they're nice and tired, and fully done and ready to enjoy themselves. And I want them to play against a myriad of different teams so that they can, really feel and experience different types of rugby and different cultures of rugby that go against and hopefully fall in love with the culture that we have.
I think that's amazing about rugby that you could be playing, that Hampton-Sydney can be playing Duke or Georgetown or whatever. There really aren't many sports where you have small liberal arts colleges that are mixing with these large, entities that you wouldn't be doing it in basketball, you wouldn't be doing it in football, and rugby is kind of the great equalizer.
Yeah, certainly. And the Division III level right now, it does not get the credit that it deserves. Because, like you're saying, there are Georgetown is Division two officially, but it does not feel like it. It does not give off that vibe that it is like that. And Duke is technically Division three, but it does not feel that way. And so there's a ton of teams that we can play against that are Division one. We regularly play Old Dominion University, and for those that love March Madness, they sometimes make some magic happen in March Madness, and so. That is something that, I don't want us to ever shy from, and I want us to play at that upper levels and constantly make good stuff happen. And in that same degree, I want us in the future to move up from the Division three program to Division one, where we are regularly traveling around and making good quality stuff happen.
So you said that you play in the fall and in the spring. When does your season start and end? Do you play 15s? Do you play sevens? What does the year look like?
Yeah, so in the fall it'll be 15s. With us starting about a week before school start, we'll have practices, and we will have our first game that weekend that everyone is back on campus. We have a very great connection with, I call it our brother university in Richmond, Virginia Commonwealth University. Hampden-Sydney actually helped to create it as a starting program for the medical field specifically, and so we're creating a trophy. We call it the Brotherly Brawl where we have a bit of a preseason match and everything else like that. I try to get us starting as soon as possible. One, because it's just fun to start with the same line as the other sports programs as well, and not have to wait and delve out and feel things out. But also just dedicates us as a rugby program. You see from time to time some teams take their time to build up into it and everything else like that. When I finished off at San Diego State, the primary competition was in the spring. And so there were only like a few 15s matches. And that led for great opportunity to, expand and learn exactly how you're going to play. But you're also not necessarily playing as much as you would want to. And so this allows for that to happen with 15s in the fall and then sevens in the spring, with a few sprinkled in 15s matches so that my big boys, they don't get too anxious.
I understand. And during the year, what does your typical rugby week look like when you consider training, lifting, and playing?
Yeah, so to keep up with the idea of varsity club, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday we'll have morning lifts. And then so following that, we'll have Monday with a morning lift to a film session. And Tuesday will be a morning lift and a nice hard hitting practice, really get the blood flowing, get yourself locked in, all that quality stuff. Wednesday's fine tuning, making sure we can handle everything, making sure we know what our game plan is. Thursday, once again with a morning lift, but more focus on walkthrough, making sure once again that we are solid. Friday, I really like to focus on getting rest for the guys. You deserve to have your Friday off and you deserve to not have to think about rugby 24/7, unless you want to. And then Saturdays, obviously, for, the best sport that we all love. And then Sundays, a recovery day where I like to focus on doing yoga, stretching, hanging out with the athletic trainers, spending quality time with them, everything else like that, where you can rest, do homework, whatever's needed.
Great. So, one of the concerns that a lot of young guys have is if I join this rugby team, am I actually going to play in my freshman year and my sophomore year? So, what is the likelihood of new students getting playing time?
I am very much focused on trying to get as much playing time as possible. I also firmly believe in the idea of a meritocracy. Um, and I want to work as hard as possible on making it a meritocracy. If you are showing up and you're putting in effort, you deserve to have playing time in any capacity. Even if you're brand new to the sport, you don't know which way is left or right or anything else like that, you should be getting just as much of a say on the team as someone who is super talented but is not putting in the effort. And because once again, it is still at the end of the day, college rugby. It's still meant to be fun. It's still meant to be enjoyable. And with the numbers that we have, I'll work on scheduling us a game and a half. When we get to 40 students on our team, we will have two full teams so that people can play as much rugby as they wish to, and there can still be, quality a match, quality sets of rugby, I guess I would say, so that you're playing against people who match your skill level and still getting as much playing time as possible. But if you want to play rugby, I will always make it happen because that's how it should be. End of story.
Great. And tell me about international players. Do you have many international players on your team?
As of right now, no. I've always been wanting to have international players, mostly because I love the international aspect of rugby. I think while we do it so great at the youth level, when it comes to high school rugby, we forget about like what rugby is and what rugby's meant to be at the college level. And, a lot of it can get like a little too broy or a little too macho-esque sometimes at the college scene. And, it really is so familial based internationally. We are all one big family. And having those international players that can see, understand, and enjoy the sentiment is something that I thoroughly enjoy. I am currently working on, maybe getting an Egyptian on the team, maybe getting a South African on the team and everything else. I'm not going to say anything too soon, but, I really love seeing how South African schoolboy rugby is, like the
Amazing.
U18s, when they're just the sidelines are a party and everything else, and there's music going on, and coincidentally, there's just a rugby match going as well. That's what I want Hampden-Sydney to be. I want us to host some of these massive colleges in the future. And they come out to rural Virginia and they're like, what is going on? Why is there live music? Why are people partying nonstop and playing at the same time? I think that's quintessentially what rugby is. And that's what I chase.
I think that's great. You mentioned that, the rugby family, and in England where I live, my local rugby club is the Oundle Rugby Club, and their motto is one club, one family. And it is very much like that in the international culture. And I think that that's one of the really strong points that internationals can bring to a team where they bring that club culture with them and help infuse US rugby with it. If somebody was going to start on this journey of trying to find their home within US colleges and US college rugby, why do you think someone should choose Hampton-Sydney as a college and as a rugby team?
If you are an American, looking into what colleges would be right for you or anything else like that, I think we're a great starting location. As a college itself, we focus very much on making sure the young man can have as many resources as possible and he can do whatever he wants. We're a liberal arts college in the traditional sense, where we just want to give you critical thinking skills and the means to do whatever you desire so that you can be successful, and I think we have 13,000 internship opportunities for 1,100 guys. And so, from all that, once again, there are a plethora of options available for you when it comes to whatever you desire to be. And we just want to be there to help find you that specific thing, whether it's working within the environment, whether it's being a NASA scientist, whether it's being a firefighter. I have guys who are training now to be Navy SEALs, and I have guys who are being data brokers, and I have guys who are working in real estate. Everything under the sun is what I've seen here at this college, and it really just comes down to us giving you as many opportunities as possible to make that happen. And I personally believe we set a great baseline for what a college should be and how a college should act. Because all too often you feel like you're a number at so many universities, especially as they get larger. And that can be great for social aspects or anything else like that, but you don't want to feel just like a cog in the wheel. You want to feel like you are somebody who matters, who exists for a purpose and everything else. And Hampton City with a smaller student population, it does feel personal and it does feel relatable and it does really feel like all these guys here are your brothers throughout time. And I think that that's really beautiful.
Great. And one of the things you shared with me earlier about the rugby program is that you have a really strong alumni group. And if you're not familiar with the term alumni for the international audience, that's someone who in England you would refer to as an old boy or an old girl of the school, someone who's
Mhm.
left the school or graduated from the school. Can you tell me a little bit about your alumni support and how they are so important to you?
Yeah, so actually, coincidentally, we didn't even talk about this yet, but this coming weekend is actually our alumni weekend, as an ode to the previous coach who unfortunately passed away. But we work hard on making sure everyone feels included, not just in the rugby sphere, but as a college itself, we exist only because of our alumni. Once again, it is a financial burden to make the conscious decision to be an all-male university. And so, to make that happen, the alumni step up and really work to make that happen. And our endowment has never been higher and everything else like that. And our alumni support has never been greater as well. The alumni for the rugby sphere, they, at least they tell me that they love what I'm doing. They like what I'm doing. We're creating an alumni roundtable. I want to work on getting the alumni's versus voices heard more. And on the flip side, they enjoy seeing this fun, exciting rugby that is being had, that is allowing for creativity and just guys having a great time. In the past, when it's, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and everything else like that, it could be more, fraternal and broy and everything else. There obviously weren't cameras left, right, and center. And so there could be fun, wild stories. But in today's day and age, you got to know how to sit upright and how to, you know, be professional as often as possible while still having personality. And Hampden-Sydney, I'd say as a culture, can handle that move superbly when it comes to being a rugby program that still enjoys stuff that the alumni enjoy, while also still, being in this 21st century of being safe and being secure for your student to go to and everything else like that. And it's beautiful to see.
Right. So, one of the things that is always part of the decision-making process is cost, and people are always very interested in financial aid and scholarship opportunities. Can you tell me about the scholarship opportunities that Hampton-Sydney has for both domestic and international students?
Certainly, yeah. So I will start off by saying 98% of all of our students do receive financial aid. We recognize that we are on the surface a bit more expensive as a private university compared to other institutions. And from that, we have two spheres of thought. The first idea is that it is because of all the countless opportunities that arise from attending Campus Sydney via the networking, via the alumni connections, via the internships, everything under the sun. We work, like I said beforehand, very hard to make it as clear and concise and accurate for you as possible. From all that, um, like I said, 98% financial aid. We do have a limitless amount of merit and academic scholarships. And so if you're an upstanding young man who wants to go out and be a change maker in this world, we want to make that happen for you as well. We want to work on trying to make young men into great young men. And from that, I will personally fight for you to make it so that it is as breathable as possible. In this day and age, college has never been more expensive. And as a parent, you have to think about that. And it sucks that you have to think about that. And you cannot just find the perfect location for your son because, you know, it could be too pricey or anything else like that. And I will work as hard as possible to make it so that we can make it viable for you. Because if you really want to come here, and I really want you to come here, then I will do everything in my power to make it happen. And, I'll rattle the doors and I'll make stuff happen. Like, I will fight for you as much as you want me to fight for you because that is what this college should embody. And that is what all colleges, all institutions should embody, and just humans in general. We should be there to support each other.
Great, thank you. There are two more questions. One more about rugby, and that is what are your goals for, I guess, for this spring season with sevens that are going on, and also for next year with your 15 season kicking off in September?
Certainly, yeah. So I have a lot of fantastic talent at the lower levels currently. I only am going to be graduating two starters currently for the seven side. So I have a lot of young talent. And so right now we have been focusing a ton on just developing our skills and fine tuning and everything else for really a sevens push nationally a year from now. But from all that, I am focusing a ton on building up the next generation of guys to make stuff good, fun, and exciting. Like I said, we are 25th in the country. My 5-year goal is for us to be top five in the country, at least once. I want Hampden-Sydney Rugby to be something sensational, and I believe that we can become something great. It just takes time, effort, and focus, and a lot of that lays on me. And so I want to work as much as possible, give 110% to make sure the guys have the opportunity to reach those goals if that's what they desire. And I believe it's definitely gettable. So more and more and more, we have a fun style of rugby that is very elusive, that is very creative, that is very fast-paced and exciting to the point that even I want the parents on the other side of the team to be cheering for Hampden-Sydney. I want some mother or father who doesn't really understand rugby to be like, wow, that was such an exciting team that you played. That is insane. How did they do that? I didn't know that that was even possible. And, I want us to just have a fun time when we're playing rugby and hopefully win as much as possible because that makes things a little bit more sweeter. Water tastes a little bit better, food tastes a little bit better when you're feeling like a winner. And, from that, we just continue to build on that until we are a nationally recognized organization and, we're really known as something that people can be proud of.
Terrific. And then finally, you mentioned this a little bit earlier that there are other colleges nearby with girls. And can you tell me a little bit about the community around Hampton-Sydney as well as Lynchburg, Charlottesville, Richmond, that broader area?
Certainly, yeah. So Hampton-Sydney itself is 10 minutes isolated from the town that has the local college and everything else like that. So, you have to drive a little bit and then it's Hampton-Sydney College. And so from that, we have an extreme focus on trust and support and everything else like that. I have seen wholeheartedly people who just have left something like sitting there or their bikes are unlocked or anything else like that. And you come back 3 hours later, 2 days later, and it's still there. It's untouched. It's amazing. When finals come around, there are people who will have their own little cubbies in the library with all of their stuff. They're studying nonstop, and nobody touches it. Nobody messes with it. People respect all of your boundaries and everything else like that. So Hampton-Sydney community-wise, it is so much like a brotherhood. You sign an honor code when you do come in here to be, an upstanding young man and an upstanding citizen. And that's something that we stand for to, the highest of degrees. And so from all that, we extend out to the further communities where we do have Longwood University, which is a predominantly women's university, which is about 3,000. 4,000 women do attend there. And so, once again, for a population of 1,100 guys to about 3,000 women, it definitely eases itself better for the guys. And then beyond that, there is, of course, Lynchburg, which has Lynchburg College. There's Charlottesville, which has UVA, and there's Richmond, which is just, the largest city in Virginia. Um, and so there are everything about an hour away, just countless opportunities to make stuff happen. But specifically within Longwood and the town of Farmville itself, we have fantastic bar scenes, food scenes, eateries, a few wineries, everything there for parents to enjoy and feel safe and know that my child is going to be there to make good stuff happen. Hampden-Sydney kind of likes to enjoy staying a little bit isolationist, where all students live on campus, um, so that there is no risk of anything happening, um, without concern. And I really enjoy that.
That sounds great. It sounds you've painted a really nice picture because you're not far from a lot of options. And sometimes people get a little bit confused or hyper focused on being rural. I grew up in a rural area, and so you just get used to driving 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but then you have whatever you want. And there are things to be said for being located in a campus that is its own entity, and everyone is really focused on that life and being part of that community. So thank you so much today for sharing your program, your school with us. And I mentioned earlier, kind of looking behind the curtain a little bit to better understand the rugby team and the college at Hampden-Sydney. Thank you very much, and good luck this spring.
Thank you, Melanie, and I greatly appreciate everything that you do.
My pleasure.